Ciao friends, Liz from Simple Italian Cooking. So glad you're here because today we're going to talk about 5 easy and delicious pasta recipes. And we're not talking about sauce and meatballs. We're actually talking about different types of pasta dishes that whether you are new to cooking or new to Italian cooking, beginner or not, it doesn't matter. These are easy recipes that are purely Italian and you can make them. By the way, if you want to print out any of these recipes, all the links are put down below in the description just for you. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Our first one is called Midnight Pasta. Yes, that's right, Midnight Pasta. So easy, just a few ingredients that I bet you already have right in your own home, and you can make it even right now. Andiamo. Well, it's called midnight pasta because it's so darn easy that you can make it when you come home from work or you're absolutely exhausted and it's midnight or you want a midnight snack and it requires barely any preparation whatsoever. So this is going to be a short video because it's so easy to make. Just a few ingredients. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to boil the angel hair. I'm doing angel hair because if it's midnight, I want something that's going to cook fast, right? And angel hair is going to be done in about 3 minutes. So I've got my pan boiling here. And I'm just going to do a small handful of pasta. Just enough for a single serving. Now if you want to make this for more than one, make sure to check out the link in the description below because I'm going to link to the actual printed recipe, which is for a little larger quantity. But honestly, this recipe is so flexible, as are so many of my Italian recipes. I think I will put in just a little bit more. And you can go ahead and check that out. But again, super easy. Requires really, there's different versions of this, okay, of midnight pasta. Some people say it's 2 ingredients. Some people say it's more. And my thinking is it's whatever you want it to be. But you got to eat it at midnight for it to be midnight pasta. Just kidding. You don't have to. We have this recipe a lot when you just want to throw something together. First thing you do, get the pasta boiling. Make sure the stove, in my case, is plugged in. This is my induction burner. You can check out my video on that. First thing we do is you take some extra virgin olive oil. You definitely want a good quality olive oil. The type of olive oil you use is really critical to making a good recipe, especially when you don't have a lot of ingredients. So it's good to have different types of olive oil on hand. You want to have something on hand that's good for frying, so that would just be your regular olive oil, not where you're trying to pull the flavor from the olive oil. Then you want like a really good extra virgin olive oil for cold press. It's going to give you the most flavor. And use it for recipes like this or on salads. And you can have just like a more, not like just a regular extra virgin olive oil if you want. That's maybe more for other types of recipes that is kind of like in between. So olive oil, garlic are the 2 main ingredients. You definitely want the garlic because that adds some flavor. Right? Don't want it to be tasteless. If you don't have garlic or you want to avoid it for whatever reason, then swap the garlic with some cheese. Or if you're feeling a little more adventurous, go ahead and do the garlic and do the cheese. So, and you can use many cloves of garlic as you want, per personal preference. I'm just doing a small amount here, so I'm going to go ahead, a small amount of the angel hair that is, and I'm just going to go ahead and saute 1 clove of garlic, which I think will be plenty for this. So one thing I like to do every time we are sauteing the garlic in the olive oil, you want to move the garlic around so that it gets coated with the olive oil. You really don't want non-olive oil coated garlic sticking up. You want it to be really soaking in that olive oil, and when you spread it around, that flavor of the garlic, it goes into the olive oil. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our pasta. Whoa, look at this. Foaming over. And that is pretty much done. You can just tell looking at it. So I'm going to go ahead and strain the pasta. And I'm going to use my strainer here. You don't have to use one of these, of course, but I've kind of gotten to really like it. And I'm going to reserve some of the pasta water. The reason why is because this is a sauceless dish. So you want to make sure that there's a little bit of water, pasta water, not regular water, because you don't want to dilute the flavor. But when you have the pasta water, you have some of that starchiness in there. And I can see that the garlic is sizzling, and I will show you a close-up of that so you can see what I'm talking about here. Yep, so you can see it's beginning to sizzle. We do not want the garlic to brown, okay? Once it starts browning, it's going to get a roasted flavor, which we do not want for this dish, and then it can easily overcook and become burnt. Once you have that, you got to toss it out, okay? And start over. And if it's a midnight recipe, you don't want to be doing that. So, all right, nice and flavorful. I'm going to go ahead and add my pasta in. Very, very easy here. Add a little bit more olive oil for flavor. And really, now that I'm thinking about it, I could have done 2 cloves of garlic. I probably should have. I always tend to make a little too much pasta. Okay, so that's one version of midnight pasta. It's just the garlic, the olive oil, and the pasta. But I like to take it a little further and also go ahead and add the cheese. And if you want to even take it further, add some red pepper flakes. And if you want it even spicier, get those red pepper flakes at the time when you're heating up that oil. That way that spiciness gets into the oil and then it really gets throughout the dish. Okay? Again, this isn't going to be the most flavorful dish in the world, but still going to have some wonderful flavor. And if it's a little runny, maybe you put too much pasta water in, just no problem. Just let it sit. It'll cook out. Keep it on low. Smells good. Hot. Whew. That was hot, temperature-wise, and I definitely got some of that pepper flakes in there, which tasted amazing. I like the red pepper flakes. That is what a midnight pasta is. It is so simple. You do not need a red sauce. You do not need an Alfredo. You do not need anything else. It's a little bit of olive oil, garlic. Up the garlic a little bit more than what I did here just to get that more of that flavor. Adjust quantities according to your taste, and you've got it going on. Recipe number 2, we're doing pasta with toasted breadcrumbs and garlic. Absolutely delicious, and you can use any type of pasta. I'm using trumpetti here just for fun. You can use your own favorite. Here we go. First thing I want to talk about is the pasta. So typically I've always done this with long pasta in the past, either angel hair, spaghetti, bucatini, something like that. But today I'm doing something new I have not done before, so I'm really hoping this turns out. But I'm using these really cool pasta shapes that I actually saw at Walmart from a brand that's made in Italy. It's called Better Goods. I've never tried them before, so I'm really hoping that they actually taste good. But they're really cool. It's called trumpetti. And these trumpettis are called trumpettis because they look like little trumpets. So you can just it's really cute. And so obviously I don't know if they're going to lose their shape or what's going to happen after I boil them, but they're really cute and they're thin. They're not real thick like a spiral, like a macaroni or something like that, or a penne. And so I think that with the text, that's going to go really well with the breadcrumb texture. I'm going to talk about the breadcrumbs and how to do it. It's so easy. So I'm going to go ahead. I already have the water boiling. I'm going to add that. So let's go ahead and start with the first ingredients. The next ingredient is the garlic. So we're going to saute the garlic in some olive oil. And then beyond that, all you need are some breadcrumbs. You can use store-bought. I have my own. I make my own breadcrumbs. Very, very easy to do it. And I just simply take some leftover Italian bread or baguettes, whatever we may have on hand. And then I put it through a blender and create the breadcrumbs there. And then what I do is when I need them, I can toast them, bake them or whatever. So I just, and then I pulse it. I use my Ninja Bullet, Magic Bullet thing to pulse it to the size that I want. If I want real fine or if I want larger panko. So mine's actually kind of a mix right here. So we have that going. That's going to take about 12 minutes. So in the meantime, so I'm adding the olive oil. I'm going to add a bit of olive oil there because I want to make sure that I am really browning and cooking up the breadcrumbs. So I'm going to turn this on. This is my induction burner that I like to use. So the garlic, I am going to go rather fine. Just going to kind of like, I'm not going to mince it. Just a small diced. I like that garlic flavor, and I think for a dish like this, you want that because we don't really have to even use cheese in it. This really is kind of like the recipes that, you know, kind of like a poor man's recipe. But I think a low medium heat is good. So I definitely don't want this to burn. Definitely getting fragrant. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add my breadcrumbs to the pan. And I'm using a little less than a quarter. I'm using about 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs. Now, I'm just doing enough pasta for my husband and I to have lunch. But you can double it to suit your needs. So you're going to see here, let me move this out of the way, that the breadcrumb absorbs the olive oil really fast. And that's okay. That's normal. That's what's supposed to happen. And basically what we're going to do is toast the breadcrumbs over the pan instead of in the oven. So I'm just going to let this cook. It's going to take for about 8 minutes for me at this heat to till when it really starts burning. And you want it to be a dark brown, but not burnt. And so you really have to keep an eye on it because once it burns, it's not going to taste good. You don't even have to add cheese to it, okay, at the end. You can add some salt and pepper if you want, and some red pepper flakes. I'm going to add a dash of those to my dish after I serve it. So that's something that you might want to have on the table if you're serving it to a bunch of people or to your family, because not everybody will want that. Okay, and I'm just going to give it a dash of black pepper. I'm going to hold off on the salt. So if you like Italian cooking and you like easy recipes, please make sure to subscribe and like the video and check that bell for the notifications so that you get notified when I come out with more recipes like this. And I do a variety of recipes. You can also join my newsletter. I send out recipes every week. And so you can definitely, sign up for that. And I got a lot of great free stuff, different free little mini ebooks. I have a free pasta mini cookbook and one for salads, one for soups. So, check all that out. It's free. So, sign up and get it. Make sure to give it a stir every once in a while so that, all the breadcrumbs will get equally toasted. Okay, so my trompetti are done. They're ready. So I'm going to go ahead and drain them using my handy dandy pasta strainer, which I love. Very easy to do. I have a whole video on it if you're like, this seems a little gimmicky to me, but believe it or not, we actually use it like all the time. So one thing with these trompetti, they really did expand in size. So hopefully I have enough breadcrumbs. Because this is not the same quantity that I use on my website. So if you want it like for 4 people, larger serving, go check out my website for those measurements. Because I'm not doing the whole recipe. And these are definitely, oh yes, turning that nice brown, just past golden brown. And this is where you really have to keep an eye on it. And if you have to transfer it out fast, then do it, you know. Put it on another plate so it'll cool right away, and then we'll mix it all together. One thing to remember when cooking recipes that are not saucy, always reserve a little bit of the pasta water and just set it off to the side, because if the pasta itself gets too dry and it starts sticking together, you want to add a little bit of that starchy water in there, and that will just help, because if you're using just regular water, then what happens is it might dilute it a little bit with the flavor. So when you use the pasta water, you have that taste of the pasta in there. So, all right, so this is just about done. So I'm actually going to put this in a separate bowl here. Beautiful, deep, reddish brown. Okay, perfect. I just did that because I don't want it to burn. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and add the pasta. So the pasta might, stick to the bottom a little bit, but that's okay. And we're just going to add that in. Just like that. You know how when you have, I don't know how like your mac and cheese when you had growing up, but like I love the mac and cheese where you bake it and it has the breadcrumbs on top and it's nice and crunchy and crispy. Imagine your pasta like that, where every bite has a little bit of that crunch. It's so delicious. And this is why, like, don't be shy with the garlic in the beginning, because that's going to really help add flavor. All right, this is looking good. Let's go ahead and take a taste test. And let's see here. And it's funny, these little trumpets, they really did expand quite a bit. So they're so fun. I've never seen these before. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this is gonna make a great lunch. I love it. And the trompetti, perfect. Perfect texture. They're not too thick, they're not too thin. I love this. This is really good. I'm talking like I'm surprised. I've had this before, but I just never had it with the with this type of pasta. I've always done long pasta. All right, let's add a little bit of pepper on here. I really like pepper. Really like the red chili pepper flakes in here. I like it better than the cheese. For recipe number 3, we're making a pasta with a mushroom and ricotta sauce. You'll be amazed what you can do with the ricotta sauce. This is so easy and is so impressive. Enjoy. Now, you can use any type of pasta. It doesn't have to be penne. Linguine would be great. Fettuccine would be great. I have penne on hand, and I think that's a really good one because penne has those little ridges in the pasta, and the pasta with those ridges will help the sauce that we're making stick to it, adhere to the pasta. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start, and all you need, I already have the penne boiling, and really pretty much by the time that's done, we'll be hopefully ready to just mix everything together. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mix up some olive oil and butter. I'm not using just olive oil. And there's no garlic in this recipe. So of course, feel free to add it. It really doesn't need it. So I'm using my induction burner, and probably one of the best investments I've ever made. I rarely ever use the top of my stove except for times like this. And I did about a tablespoon or so of the olive oil. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter. And I'm so sorry for any of my dairy-free friends. This recipe is not going to probably make it on your menu, but feel free to watch and enjoy the rest of us. Enjoy it. Butter, I'm adding about a tablespoon, and I'm going to let that cook down a little bit. I'm going to slice up the mushrooms because I want to cook the mushrooms in here. Now, if I wasn't using mushrooms, the recipe would even be easier because all we would do is mix in the ricotta with the Romano cheese. So this is not a recipe where it's just take the pasta and toss it with ricotta and there you have pasta and ricotta. No, doing a little bit more. This is a really delicious, really kind of a rich recipe. And I think the butter helps with that. It really doesn't need a lot of herbs. It's very, very simple. It creates a really wonderful white sauce. There's no tomatoes in this. So far, this is good. And once you start mixing it with that butter and olive oil and the mushrooms, oh my gosh, the flavor, the smell is absolutely delicious. So one tip here is that you want to use, if you can, use whole milk ricotta, okay? If you use part skim, which I know is very tempting to do and trying to cut back the calories and stuff like that, but you're not going to get as creamy of a texture as when you use the whole milk. And this goes with a lot of cooking, whether you're making desserts like cannoli or something like that, where it's a big part of it. You want that creaminess, then you really want to go with the whole milk. So if you can. And this is looking really, really good. And my pasta, which I forgot about, is definitely done. So I'm going to put this in colander here and let that sit. I'm going to leave some of the water in there. So it's very important whenever making recipes that don't have like a lot of sauce, a lot of tomato sauce and stuff, that you reserve some of the pasta water, because just in the off chance that your dish dries out a little bit, maybe you don't have as much sauce as you thought you would, or you made too much pasta, so it kind of, overpowers that, and it can get a little dry as it absorbs all the liquid, especially if it sits there for a while. You want to add a little bit of water in to kind of loosen it up a little bit and get that sauce moving around again. The problem with using just like regular water is that it will actually water it down in terms of flavor. So when you save some of the pasta water that has that starchiness in it, that helps prevent that from happening. So, all right, fantastic. These mushrooms are about done. So I'm going to really lower this. I want to kind of push it off to the side a little bit. And I have it on a very low setting. And I'm going to add in, I would normally do about a cup of ricotta, but I'm going to do it just a little bit less simply because I didn't cook as much pasta, but just eyeball it. And there's really no need to pre-mix. I guess that'll be all right. What the heck, do a little bit more. There's no need to pre-mix the ricotta with the Romano. So I am using grated Romano cheese. And if you don't have Romano, a lot of people like to use Parmesan instead. That's totally fine. I like Romano. I think it's more potent in its flavor and saltiness, and so for me, a little goes further. So yeah, it is a little more pricier, but I don't use as much of it. So I'm just going to put in a few spoonfuls here, and it will soon create, there you go, nice creaminess. So I'm going to mix that together because I want that to be really blended before I kind of push in the mushrooms. And this looks so good. This looks absolutely delicious. I really like the mix of the butter with the olive oil for this particular recipe. And like I said earlier, you don't even have to use the mushrooms. It's just last minute I decided to kind of change things up a bit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add in the penne. Yeah, and if you want, when you're done, you can add some little cracked black pepper. And in terms of what to serve this with, obviously a salad would be good, a nice green salad. And that's it. And so let me go ahead and taste it with the mushrooms, just to make sure there's no other enhancements that need to be made. I'm not a fan of eating on camera, but yes, this is perfect. This is ready to head on over to the dining room table, which is right over there. Let's move on to recipe number 4. It's pasta with zucchini and tomatoes. Super, super easy. I know you'll love it. I already have the pan. I'm using a cast iron pan. You can use any kind of pan. You can use a skillet, frying pan. It doesn't have to be cast iron. It just happens to be what I grabbed. I'm heating up some olive oil, so I'm using extra virgin. We just want to heat that up in the pan. And while that's heating, let me just explain to you. I'm using dried pasta. I'm using these little bow ties. This is kind of fun. I like using bow ties every once in a while. But you can actually use any kind of pasta. You can use short, long, thick, thin. This is one of those recipes that you really can't go wrong with whatever type of pasta you use. So whether you're using ziti or penne, or you're using bucatini, or you're using angel hair, or just regular spaghetti, all of that is fine. This recipe will go for that. So will go great with any of that. All right, so I have the water boiling. I'm going to go ahead and add in my pasta. I'm going to get this started. It's going to take about 9 minutes. What I like to do when anytime I add pasta to a pan of boiling water, I like to give it a little stir, just to that helps prevent, because what happens is when that pasta, which is starchy, and it hits with that water, it's going to get a little sticky. So you want to make sure that you stir it a few times, just to make sure that it doesn't stick, okay? So now at this point, you can salt your water if you want. Some people really like to do that. I don't do it. I just don't think it's necessary. But some people swear by it. That's fine. Do it if you want. All right, so I got the olive oil going here, and I'm just going to lightly chop this, roughly chop it. I'm not looking to really dice it. I'm not looking to, I'm not looking to slice it. I'm not looking to just, crush and add it in. I really want just kind of some rough pieces in there, enough to give it flavor and a little bit, and to be able to be noticeable when I get it in a bite. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I like to do anytime I add garlic to the olive oil, and by the way, I have this one kind of a low heat because we don't want that garlic to burn. We'll turn it up a little bit later. But I like to coat that garlic with the olive oil, okay? Now, we're just using one big zucchini. I'm making enough for myself and my husband. This will produce about 2. I'm going to use about 1.5 cups of the pasta. And this is one of those recipes that you can really adjust. If you want more zucchini, add more. If you want the actual specific ingredients and the specific measurements, please go to my website. I'll have the link below of the actual recipe, and you can pull for a larger quantity. But really, this is so flexible. And you can use this as a guideline. You can double this recipe. You can use less zucchini and use more tomatoes, or whatever you want. So the way that I'm going to do this is I am actually going to do quarter moons. So a little different than what normally I do. A lot of times when I cook with zucchini, I do half moons, which is really, really easy. It sounds fancier than it is. Just simply cut your zucchini lengthwise, and then, okay, so like this, you cut it, and then what you do is you slice it crosswise like this, and this is how you get your half moon. It's a half a moon. But what I want to do is I want to actually cut it again, slice it again, and I'm going to make quarter moons. And you can do it this way, or you could do it keeping the half moons, or if you want to do the whole circle, that's fine too. And I'm just slicing them so that they're about 1/4 of an inch in width. And like I said, this is a larger zucchini, so I'm just going to stick with this. If these was small, I'd probably use 2. So 1 small zucchini is usually, I use as a general rule of thumb, 1 small zucchini per person. So we're just going to go ahead and add the zucchini in. And you might be wondering, like, well, what order? Why not do the tomatoes first? Well, that's fine. You can do the tomatoes first. I'm just going to kind of cook everything together. That's the end. I don't want that. And this is a recipe. A lot of times when I'm cooking zucchini as a side dish or something else, I don't cover the pan. But in this case, I am going to cover it because I want to keep that moisture. I'm not trying to cook it off because I want a little bit of liquid to go with the pasta. I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of water, which I just put in the lid and then just drop it in. And then I cover it. And I go ahead and raise the temperature a little bit. That water does a few things. One, I feel like it kind of helps heat up and get the steam going in there, but it also helps keep that garlic from burning because I added that and cooked that for a few minutes. So just a little tip there. And then turn the temperature up to get things moving, and then we're going to go ahead and turn it back down. Okay, so let's check on our pasta. I'm going to give it a little stir. So let's talk about the tomatoes really quick. So I'm just going to go ahead and I want to get the liquid out of here. So I don't want necessarily large chunks for this type of recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of chop them up, roughly chop it. Let me just check here because I turned it up. Yep. Ooh, yeah. Yay. Now I can turn this down just a tad. Because my pasta's done, so I need to get that off and drained. But I want to go ahead and add the tomatoes because what I don't want to happen with this zucchini is I don't want like a charred taste. I don't want it tasting like grilled zucchini for this dish. Just gonna go ahead and put that in, and then I'm gonna go ahead, cover it up, and drain the pasta. So I'm going to go ahead and drain the pasta. I'm using my clip-on pasta strainer, which I absolutely love. I have a link below to actually a video I did about how it works and the pros and cons. But I love it, especially for dishes like this, because when you do a pasta dish that doesn't have like a lot of sauce, you want to make sure that you don't drain all of the water. And so by doing this, I can easily do that. And I can let the pasta sit there. These things come right off. Just throw it in the dishwasher and keep it in a drawer or just off to the side. Smelling absolutely delicious. Oh yeah, you can really see that this is cooking down real nice. This is exactly what we want. Probably about 2 more minutes and we'll be set. Okay, so this is great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to spoon the pasta. At least that's what I'm going to do. I don't want all the pasta water that's in there because I wanted to have some for reserve. Okay, so we have the pasta and it's cooking. I'm going to turn it down because I don't want to cook off all that liquid, right? I'm just going to take a few basil leaves here and I'm just going to tear them. I'm not going to bother cutting them with a knife or a scissors or anything like that. And they're just going to naturally wilt down. I'm actually going to turn this off. And that basil smells so good. And you want to use fresh basil, not dried. Okay? So let's go ahead and give a taste test. And I haven't forgotten the cheese. I just like to add that on to the actual serving dish. And I'm using Romano cheese. I'm using grated Romano cheese. You can use shredded if you want. I like grated. If you don't have Romano, you can use Parmesan. I say this like in every video. Romano just has more flavor and a stronger punch, so you don't have to use as much. So it goes, in my opinion, it goes further. But if you like Parmesan and you use that and it tastes good, then go for it. All right. And of course, the best is when like everything is fresh out of the garden, right? Really comes through. So we got to add it at the end. This is very, very flavorful, very, very healthy and delicious, and a recipe that we make so often here. I don't always do bow ties. A lot of times I do angel hair with it. Really good. This final recipe is pasta with shrimp and lemon. Don't be intimidated that we're cooking with shrimp. I'm going to step you through it. It's so ridiculously easy. You're going to impress yourself. The type of pasta we're using is going to be a long pasta. I just put it in some boiling water for the, I'm just using spaghetti. I'm going to go over what type of shrimp we're using. I'm going to go over how flexible you can be with this recipe. So if you have ever been hesitant to make a pasta and shrimp dish, fears be gone, because I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, let me just go over the ingredients that I'm using for this recipe. Okay, I'm using some extra virgin olive oil, organic. Okay, if you have organic, great. If you don't, you know, at least make sure it's extra virgin first cold pressed, best flavor. And then we're going to have some, what do we have here? We have garlic. I'm going to be using about 2 cloves of garlic for this dish, okay? I'm going to go over the quantities and what to do about them, depending on how much you're making, so just hang tight. And then we have some shrimp here. I'm going to show you how to thaw it real fast. Then we have some lemon, show you when to use it and how to use it properly. And then some optional stuff, which is some salt that you can add to the dish if you like to enhance the flavor just a little bit. You don't need it. So if you're trying to cut back on that sodium, this is a good dish. You don't have to have it. And then some crushed red pepper. The reason why I'm including this, because I don't always use crushed red pepper, is some people just love it. So I wanted to make sure I at least include it for those who really like a little bit of a kick. So, all right, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to thaw the shrimp. So I have quite a bit to say about the shrimp, but it's frozen right now. I have a little over 4 ounces. What I'm going to do is just simply run it under cold water until they are thawed. And they thaw really, really fast, which is really, really great. These are nice and thawed. The reason why we want to make sure that they're fully thawed here, you don't want to cook them. I just have them in a little strainer here. Hopefully you can see while I've been talking. I'm just going to let that drain. They cook really fast. You want to make sure that they are fully thawed so that they cook evenly. See? Because if it's frozen, partially frozen, you're going to get, you know, it's going to not cook evenly. And the problem is that shrimp, when it's overcooked, will get really rubbery. And we do not want that. So, quick note about the pasta. All right, so hang on. I'm going to turn this onto medium. And I'm doing enough pretty much just for myself and some. The reason being, I was actually going to do a linguine. I had just enough linguine left over. And linguine would have been really nice. Like I said, you want a long pasta with this dish. Adding a few tablespoons of olive oil. And just going to heat it up on kind of a medium heat. So I was going to make the linguine, right? And my husband does not really care for seafood that much, especially like when cooking in the house. And anyway, I didn't think he was going to want any. So I was just going to use up the linguine. So he came down and saw the shrimp and saw me getting ready. And he's like, I think I'll have some of that. So I was like, seriously? Okay, no problem. But we don't have any more linguine. So I had to go fishing, pun not intended. And I grabbed a bag of spaghetti, and so I'm doing a half a pound of spaghetti, okay? And so in terms of which will give for us, about 2 servings, I grabbed, this is probably about 5 ounces of shrimp right here. 4 ounces, according to the shrimp bag, is what they recommend for a serving. what do I say? That's just a guideline. So if, you know, you want more, put more in. If you don't want more, don't put more in, you know, use less. So there's no wrong or right. You're not going to ruin the dish if you have 1 or 2 more shrimp, you know, that knock it up to 5 ounces, right? And really what I'm just doing here is I'm getting the garlic ready. I want to mince the garlic because I really want that flavor. Remember, this is not a red sauce recipe. This is not any type of Alfredo. It's just a simple olive oil and garlic recipe, which you can use for a lot of things. Let me tell you, I use it for doing zucchini, cooking up zucchini, tossing it in with some pasta. So you might be wondering, like, why did I not have my usual Romano cheese, which is like, you know, I love Romano cheese. And the reason is because I'm just not convinced you even need it for this dish, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add the garlic here. And so you'll notice that I used 2, oops, I only did 1 clove. So I like to use a little bit more because this is the sauce, okay? The olive oil and garlic is the sauce. So you want to go up a little bit on the olive oil. I may have even skimped a little bit on it, but I think it'll be okay because of the quantity. So, all right. So the garlic is getting, we want to do this until the garlic is real nice and fragrant. I feel like I should turn this down a little bit, but I don't want the garlic to brown. Okay, so now what we're going to do, I am going to turn it down a little bit, actually very low. So I forgot to mention something. This is fresh parsley. You do not have to use fresh parsley. You can use dried parsley, but if you have fresh parsley, you know, and this really kind of goes with any herb, if you have fresh over dried, go with the fresh, okay? So I'm going to add probably about 3/4 of this. I'm using, I don't know, maybe a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. Again, preference, no wrong or right. And one thing that's really cool about this is we're going to be adding a little bit of this parsley on at the end. So if you feel like you didn't really add enough, don't worry about it. Okay, so shrimp. I'll turn it up a little bit. Okay. You want to cook it over medium heat. I'm going to kind of keep the herbs and stuff a little bit away from it. Maybe even off a little bit. And shrimp is actually really easy to cook. You don't have to be afraid of cooking shrimp. Now, with the shrimp, you might be wondering, well, what size do I use? Do I get it deveined? Do I get it with the shell on or off? These are all questions that I had as well when I was not familiar with cooking with shrimp. So it's really nice to get them pre-deveined, okay? You want to cook this for like 3 minutes, and we're just moving them around a little bit so they don't get stuck. Okay, so you might be wondering, when do we add the lemon? Okay, so let's talk about that. The lemon, I'm using fresh lemon, okay? If you don't have fresh lemon, it is not the end of the world. The dish doesn't even have to have lemon on it. I just like shrimp and that lemon and garlic flavor, okay? So if you don't have it, don't stress. If you have something like concentrate or lemon juice in a bottle, add a few drops, okay? But you don't want to cook the lemon juice in the olive oil and get it all hot and stuff. It changes it. I don't know the science behind it. But what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle that on at the end, okay? These are kind of beginning to turn. And again, you don't want to overcook them, but you certainly don't want to undercook them either. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn them over. And really, shrimp over medium heat probably shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, but you're going to know when it's done when it starts getting pink, okay? So what do you do? So what do you do if the pasta's not ready yet, right? I mean, I'm telling you, you don't want to undercook it. I'm telling you, you don't want to overcook it.
Okay, so really easy answer. You remove it from the pan. Now, how crazy is that for an easy answer, right? Okay. So, I mean, even already, it's been like only 15 minutes, and that was with me talking and, going a little slower than normal just because I'm doing the video and not like whipping things around and making a huge mess. I can't tell you how good it smells. It smells absolutely delicious. It's way down. And I'm just going to dump this in. Remember that parsley? We saved some. We're going to add it here. It's going to be delicious. And then what we're going to do, remember that lemon? We get the seeds out. We definitely don't want seeds in there, right? I'll just do this. Now, I could have done this before I added the pasta. Does it really matter? I don't think so. That, again, you don't have to use the lemon, but I really, really recommend it. See how awesome that is? It looks so good with the parsley and the garlic. Oh my gosh. It is delicious. It is really, really good. And the cool thing is you don't have to load the dish up with a ton of shrimp because you have that olive oil, garlic, and parsley flavor throughout. I mean, you could do it without the shrimp, but that's not what this recipe is about.
Okay, friends, I hope you liked all those recipes. Make sure to like and subscribe and stick around for more recipes coming right up. Thanks for watching.
Yabba dabba doo!